I was introduced to radical Islam when I was 10 years old, when the Muslims blew up my home as they shouted Allahu Akbar, bringing it down and burying me under the rubble wounded. My only crime was that I was a Christian living in a Christian town. I learned at the age of 10 years old the meaning of the word infidel. I had a crash course in survival, not in Girl Scouts, but in a bomb shelter where I lived for 7 years of my life, without electricity, with no water, and very little food. To get some food, I would crawl out under the bombs and the snipers' bullets to gather grass to eat, and we would crawl to a nearby spring to get some water. At the age of 13, I dressed in my burial clothes, getting ready to go to bed at night, waiting to be slaughtered at the hands of the Muslims. And by the age of 20, I had buried most of my friends who were killed by Muslims. And we were not Americans living in New York, and we were not British citizens living in London. We were Arab Christians living in Lebanon. I come from Lebanon. Many people do not realize that Lebanon used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we had open border policy, we welcomed everyone into our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Arabic world in the Middle East. Because of the majority Christian presence in Lebanon, we were good in commerce, we focused on building the country. In a very short period of time, Lebanon became Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. But sadly, because of our open border policy and our open-mindedness and tolerance and fairness, we welcomed people who were not supposed to be in our country in the first place. Muslims used to send their children to study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Middle East, in the Arabic world. They graduated and they stayed and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Arabic world, even though we did not have any oil. But even though we had the problems with the Muslims, especially as the population, the Islamic population grew because of the multiple birth rates, and we, the Christians, started shrinking because we simply do not get married to multiple wives like they do. We don't have many children like they do. So over 20, 30 years of this trend, they became the majority and we became the minority. But we always had the problems maintained between the Christians, who have become the minority, and the Muslims, who have become the majority, until the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan, which we as a civilized country, as an open-hearted country, took them in. Here we took in a group of Palestinian terrorists. Yasser Arafat was kicked out of Jordan when he tried to overthrow King Hussein out of power. But because of the dictatorship of the king, King Hussein kicked them out and actually killed more Palestinians in Black September than the state of Israel has killed in all its existence. We, as a majority Christian country, open-minded and fair and tolerant and multicultural, we were the only Arabic country that took a third wave of Palestinian refugees into the country. Once they came in, the majority of them were Muslims. They put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and declared war on the Christians. And that's when the civil war began in 1975. I was 10 years old when the war started. Because of the presence of the Palestinians and because of the open border, a lot of Muslims poured into from Arabic countries throughout the Middle East to help the Palestinians establish a presence in Lebanon. They wanted to use our open borders, our laws, our westernization, our fair and open-mindedness against us, using our laws against us. People do not realize that Lebanon is a republic, very much like the United States of America. So our enemy was able not only to infiltrate our country, but also use our existing laws to their benefit to establish their presence and twist the laws to their side. And we had many people in the country, including many Christians, who actually marched with the Palestinians and the Islamists, asking for more Islamic representations in the government for them, thinking that they're taking on the cause of the underdog. However, once the massacring began in 1975, once the Muslims became the majority and started taking over Christian cities and towns and killing them, that's when they would walk into the Christian homes. And some of those Christian leftists who basically demonstrated with the Islamists and said, What do you mean you're here to kill us and to slaughter us? We demonstrated with you. We pushed for your rights in the government. We pushed for you to take a part of whatever we had established. And the trends that we saw happening in Lebanon, once the Muslims and the Palestinians started massacring the Christians, and they would walk into Christian homes, and even some of them leftists who demonstrated with the Islamists and fought for new laws to be established in the country to protect the presence of the Palestinians who came to the country under refugee status. The Muslims would kill them, and they would tell them, you were as infidels as any other infidel, and you deserve nothing but death. And